What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is iRate Reviews, the show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something you should go back to the comic book shop for or not. So make sure you subscribe to get more of these every single week. The book that I want to talk about right now is X-Men Red #1. So after the last 5 weeks, we've seen Matthew Rosenberg spin a tale of Jean Grey's return to the main Marvel continuity, as well as her disassociation from the Phoenix. So what is this purely psychic, telepathic, telekinetic Jean Grey going to be doing? How is she going to spend her time and her refound rebirth into the Marvel Universe? Let's find out exactly what's going on. So I spent the last 2 weeks talking about Phoenix Resurrection, The Return of Jean Grey by Matthew Rosenberg, and I've been really excited about this return. I was really happy with the way the story really played out and how everything was introduced. And what we do is we jump immediately right into the action in X-Men Red #1, which is written by Tom Taylor and with art by Mahmud Asrar. And overall, as soon as you start getting into this book, you see a very distinct art style, which is going to tell a lot of powerful things. The crack, the kick in of the door, it's just exuding this kind of like strength and power that goes into it. The escape of the young girl from her house, it looks like there's a mob that's coming after her. And what do we see? We see her mom call her an abomination as she aims a gun at her own daughter before bang, bang, bang. You've got just these firing rounds that are going after her, all stopped in the middle of the air by a freshly resurrected Jean Grey in a very distinct and very new costume. It's something that we haven't really seen before, other than the cover art and some previews, but overall it seems to fit extremely well as she stops these bullets in midair, saving this young child. It's a really striking panel, and overall I really like it. And then immediately we see, we've got Nightcrawler, we've got Laura Kinney's X-23. These are other mutants, these are other X-Men that are here trying to save this little girl, and they immediately bamf away from everybody, leaving the girl right in front of a great white shark. But it turns out that it's not necessarily something that's, it's not stuffed. It's actually there, but they're in their secret base. And the secret base happens to be underwater. And the thing is, I tweeted this to Tom Taylor as well, and it's just like, you know how like in the X-Men mansion there's Cerebro where they can tell where other mutants are? This is Cerebro, SEA, and I mean it was just like a like a groaning dad joke kind of situation, and I couldn't help myself. And he's just like, why can't it be both? Why can't it be a funny joke and a dad joke and be kind of groany? So, Tom Taylor, fantastic. Good job for you to sneak that one in there and make that kind of like canon. But we see the full team. We see that Namor's here as well. We've got this character called Trinary. We've got Gentle, which is from Wakanda. He's a Wakanda Inhuman or mutant. You've got Honey Badger, which is the new name for the younger sister of Laura Kinney's X-23, another clone. But we find out that this is not present day. Well, this is present day-ish. It's somewhere around present day, because 2 months earlier, we actually see what incited this incident. There's a carjacking going on as this woman's having her Jaguar being stolen, but the key is that her baby is in the back seat. And this baby is not necessarily some ordinary baby. This is a baby that is a mutant. And this is a mutant with sonic abilities and powers. Slowly crying, building up the volume until smash, the windows shatter from everywhere around there. Laura and Honey Badger, they're headed over there. Laura puts her hand over the baby's mouth, to try and kind of silence this power, and it just eviscerates her skin, her muscle, down to the bone. It's impossible for her to withstand that. Her claw hand just being retracted, the roof being blown off the top of the car as they're kind of ejected. Of course, Jean is there to save them. Jean kind of, calms, brings the baby down, communicates with him telepathically, telling them it's going to be okay, comforting him and letting him know that he is going to be safe as he returns to his mother. And Jean immediately starts talking about how they can help this child. It's just like, okay, there's psychic suggestions, making sure that he's not going to cry. There's a bunch of different things that you can do. Hank McCoy is going to be doing, creating this device so that way we can suppress his ability. And then once he gets old enough, we can go to the Xavier Institute and teach him how to use it. And of course, Wolverine lives nearby. So if anything happens, she can come help if she needs protection. Of course, this is anything but a simple incident, as it quickly becomes national news where people are getting to the point of, we're talking almost genocidal. We're talking to the situation of concentration camps. or at least that's the kind of persecution that mutants have faced in the past, and it looks like it's coming back. You know, exactly what should be done. I'm sick of political correctness getting in our way of our safety. So Jean needs a perspective because she hasn't been alive for quite some time. Another stunning scene of her floating up into the air, reaching out into the earth, and then reaching out telepathically to see exactly what's going on. She connects with all these individual people. She goes and visits them physically, and at this point in time, she's touching base with specific individuals. And finally, she gets to T'Challa. You know, she gets to the Black Panther inside Wakanda. And he's understanding of this because he's known her for quite some time, but she wants to call together a meeting, and the meeting is of the best minds in the world, and she has a plan, but she needs to borrow their intellect, their ideas, their intelligence to find that way forward. And she does. She finds it. She calls on Kurt. You know, she calls on Nightcrawler, and she's just like, follow my thoughts, until he finally finds her. And then she goes over the vision with him, not necessarily telling him, but putting it into his mind. And that results in another stunning single panel of just the two of them sitting out over the top of this rocky outcropping, staring off into space across this mountainous range in the sunset, as he says, it's a beautiful idea. And the thing is, of course, Kurt is in there. He's crying. He hasn't seen anything quite like this. And when it comes to protection, he's ready for her. When it comes to needing a friend, he's there for her. And Jean understands exactly what's going on here because Kurt to her is the soul. We might think of Jean Grey as the heart of this, and Tom Taylor really dives into that. Tom Taylor feels like Jean Grey is the heart of what the X-Men are, and if that's the case, then Kurt, Nightcrawler, is the soul of these things. So she goes and parlays with Namor inside Atlantis, a place where they rarely get visitors, but she is going to go talk to the United Nations and present a solution that can make sure that everybody lives in peace. And there's a lot of posturing that goes on. There's a lot of debate about exactly what goes on. And then the idea that she's going to do this anyway, and this is their opportunity to be involved. And of course, Namor stands up. Atlantis recognizes the mutant nation. The representative from Wakanda recognizes the mutant nation, and that is enough to get things going. And when they finally step outside, she's talking with the ambassador that was giving her a little bit of flack, and of course, the UK used to be huge. You know, the British Empire was an empire at that point in time, but of course, this is just simply posturing, so that way they can't really lose anything by backing up the mutants, and they don't want to lose any more by not backing up the mutants. So this is just something where they're trying to play the political game so that way they can have the proper perception. However, that changes immediately. You know, the eyes and the face grow sinister. The Jean Grey's not necessarily sure exactly what happens, but there's something inside her head. There's something that's causing her to act completely differently than what she'd expect. And then all of a sudden, boom, her goddamn head explodes right in front of everybody on the TV cameras as Jean Grey's reaching her hand out. It looks like she just crushed her head like a grape or just made it blow up from the inside. It's a climactic event. Of course, immediately the UN soldiers are trying to get back at her. Namor jumps in front of her so that way she can be protected. Wolverine jumps over and just kind of like takes care of all these weapons and stuff like that. Kurt pops out of nowhere and bamps them all into some other place. And then we see who's behind it. The dark mirror of Charles Xavier, Cassandra Nova. And then you see a broken, destitute, disappointed Jean with blood across her face, disappointed mutants, and a Namor that's looking out into the distance, trying to figure out what their next move is while they're exiled. So, I really love this book. You know, this is fantastic. I'm just super excited for where this goes. I haven't had an X-Men book on my pull list in God knows how long. I mean, years at this point in time. And I'm super excited for where X-Men Red's going. I just dig Tom Taylor. I think that he's got a really good grasp on the characters. I think he's got a really good idea of where he wants to take this. And X-Men Red became a must-read book for me quite some time ago. As soon as I knew it was coming out, I'm like, yep, I got to read that. And this is just furthering my excitement for where this title's going to go. Especially those last few pages are just like, the pace is going to be fantastic. Of course, Mahmud Asrar, he is doing some fantastic work on the art. I really like the visual style. It's very distinct from a lot of things, but it still feels familiar in a lot of different ways. So I'm really excited about where this goes. However, I want to know what you guys think too, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.